So welcome to the um, season finale of Stories on Sunset. My name is Seth Nay, and every almost every Sunday, I share stories about my concert journalism days as a out in Los Angeles on the Sunset Strip. Um, I say a lot, but the past 2 weeks I was putting on my own festival, and then last week I was just like I didn't have time to do one, so because I was live streaming from that. So if you go on my YouTube channel, you'll see all that some of the footage from that fest. It's pretty rad. But donate below to I'm raising funds for my favorite venues on the Sunset Strip and Sunset Boulevard, like Amoeba, Book Stoop, the Rainbow Bar and Grill, the Laugh Factory, the Comedy Store, the Satellite, the Viper Room, Troubadour, the Whiskey A Go Go. I'm also raising funds for the Corazon Cinema and Cafe, which they were kind enough for 2 years let me host my own storytelling show live and in person before COVID hit. So all the venues that I mentioned, they are currently either closed or somewhat opened with like limited capacity due to COVID. And so I'm trying to raise funds that way for the venues that were my safe havens, if you will, while I was living out in LA. So donate to one or some or to all if you can. That'd be fantastic. Tonight's story will be about the time that I covered Kosha Dillz, wrote articles about him all over Sunset Strip and beyond. Really. And we became friends because I kept on seeing him at shows, opening up for some of my favorite musicians and all that good stuff. Um, the earliest memory I had of him was when he was performing at the Viper Room, and he was like one of the opening acts for Asher Roth. He might have been the direct support, but my pals of Midnight Theory were on the bill too, and that was pretty cool. And I also, whenever like members of the Wu-Tang Clan would perform in LA, whether it was like the Key Club or the House of Blues or wherever, he would be one of the opening acts. And I've always wondered like how did he pull that off? That's just pretty awesome. And I remembered he would like it would not always be like stuck to hip hop. Like I remembered seeing him at the Roxy Theater one time, and it was part of West Fest, and Brendan Small of Death Clock and Metalocalypse was headlining it, and so that was pretty rad. And I couldn't believe my eyes. That was a pretty cool show. It was quite a mixture of everything, and it was like I got to interview Brendan Small backstage, so I'll definitely link that after I wrap up this. I'll put it in the description box with my interview with Brendan Small on that day at West Fest. That was a pretty cool experience there. Um, let's see here. So I think I remember seeing Kosha perform at the Key Club, whether it was for RZA, Method Man, or something like that. He was always definitely on one of those Wu-Tang bills. So that was pretty cool. What else? There was I remember running into him at the Rock the Bells launch party at the House of Blues too while I was covering that show. And I asked him if he was gonna like perform, and he goes he might be, but I can't remember if he did or not. But Supernatural did, and he did this thing that Kosha would do, which is like he'd have like uh, audience members just like shout out a word or hand out like throw items on the stage, and he would pick it up and rap about it and freestyle, and it's like one of the coolest things I've ever seen. So those are always memorable from the Kosha shows. So, um, while I was on tour as a tour manager with the Widowhood Effect, I used to manage him. I was a publicist and the booking agent, and I just volunteered to do that stuff. Uh, I set up a West Coast tour for him, and one of the places that they performed, which I encouraged, was like perform on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and that's what the band did. And I ended up seeing Kosha on there and performing too, because his hustle game is pretty awesome. Like he'll perform everywhere. And I remember seeing like one of his stickers and such that said Kosha Dillz is everywhere, and I didn't doubt that for one bit. He was definitely everywhere. Um, and so that made up for the time that I didn't get to see him while living in Colorado. So I think he performed there a couple times while I was with managing the Widowhood Effect, but I was just too busy in the studio with them or booking shows for him and stuff, so didn't really get to go out much. But because I was the Widowhood Effect was my main focus. And then we ended up reuniting at Vans Warped Tour in Jacksonville, Florida, and I covered that show. Well, for the most part, Kosha was my hookup for my photo pass and stuff like that. So he gave me like an all access pass, and I got to like cover his performance with his pal. I think his pal's name is Flex. So that was pretty neat. And then he ended up pulling me up on the tour bus, and I got to meet so much more musicians that were there. Because like I'm not gonna lie, the press area was just a bit of a mess. It was just like, yeah, here you go. Whoever you want to interview, you can interview. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I ended up just interviewing just random musicians that I saw with a musician pass. So, but it was pretty neat. I got to so all those Warp Tour interviews will be in this box too with the Brendan Small interview. Um, so I'll be sure to put that all on this thing. One more thing that I forgot to mention while I was out in LA and I covered Kosha was he had his own festival called Coachella, I believe, and I met like I believe Dumbfounded and there and a couple other stuff. Believe it's been like forever. So and so he inspired me to put on my own festival that I mentioned earlier in this segment of Stories on Sunset. So just inviting all my pals and putting on a show, and so hopefully he does that again. That'd be pretty awesome. I still have mine going strong for 7 years, and there was one time that I tried to bring Kosha to perform at the fest, but um, I had a sponsor lined up and everything, and it was just a mess. So we didn't end up having him on the perform, but one day if he sets up a tour or something, but yeah, Kosha is everywhere, so definitely go visit his website and buy some merch from him, and all that good stuff. So that's pretty much all my Kosha Dillz stories from uh, his performances from coast to coast, and it's true what he says, and he lives by his word, which is Kosha Dillz is everywhere, and so definitely look him up, buy his songs, buy his merch, support him. He's like one of the most um, amazing hustling musicians that I've ever seen. So he's a really cool artist, and he's everywhere. So as I mentioned, so definitely look him up, and I'll put all the links to all the interviews from Vans Warped Tour, the stop in Jacksonville, and the Brendan Small one from West Fest, and that's pretty much for the season finale of Stories on Sunset. There will be more in the future. I don't know when, but I'm giving up social media for Sober October because I don't drink or smoke or anything like that. So I wanted to give up something. So Sober October is giving up social media to see what happens, finding some new hobbies and stuff. I don't know when I'll return, but when I do, you'll have more episodes of Stories on Sunset. For now, just watch past episodes. They're all organized on my YouTube channel, so watch all those. I guess that's about it. So, with that said, this has been Stories on Sunset for this Sunday night on September 27th, 2020. This is my SOS to the world. This is my message in the bottle. Don't forget to donate to all the cool venues that used to be my safe havens out in LA. They're on the bottom there of this video. Take care, and I'll see you sometime in the future. Have a good night.